everyone. Welcome to a rewind episode of Hate Read. I'm Em.
And I'm Anna. And every fortnight we normally challenge the other to read a book that we think that they will hate. But for this episode, Em has actually chosen a book that she knows she hates, that she's read in the past. So, this fortnight, Em has challenged the both of us to read Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator by Roald Dahl, the sequel to the much more famous Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So, Em, first question. Why do you hate this book?
Okay, so I really loved Roald Dahl as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I had like a box set of some of his books, and this was one of them, which is a weird decision for that box
waste
set.
Of space.
Yeah, I did not have Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
What?
And the library, yes, the library also didn't have Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
What?
So I had never read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory when I first read this book. And this book, as a child, scared the absolute shit out of me. I was terrified of this book. The Vermicious Knids were the scariest thing in the world. And I don't know, did you get an illustrated version of this?
I did. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you saw the little scram thing that they do?
Yes. Oh, I hated that.
I hated it, and it scared me so badly. And also, so in that scene, which we'll talk about the plot a little bit. We tend not to talk about the plot as much for these rewind episodes, but we'll talk about it a little bit. But in that scene, the group comes across these aliens on this space hotel. It'll make sense. We'll get there. And
no, it won't.
They emerge. Yeah, it won't. They emerge from elevators that so the door slides open.
Okay.
And I had like a sliding closet door at home in my room. So I had nightmares about the Vermicious Knids.
That's so sad.
I read this book. I didn't actually, here's the thing, I said, I don't know if I had actually read this entire book all the way through before, because I'm pretty sure every time I tried, I got to the part with the Vermicious Knids and put it down and wouldn't keep reading.
Yeah, because I think there is also, later in the book, the waiting room and the minus space.
Yeah, that's weird
also
too.
Pretty spooky for a kid. So I would understand if you didn't continue on. There wasn't much waiting for you at the end.
And again, I'm not sure if I really liked Roald Dahl as a kid because I really liked him, or just because that was the material that was provided to me, and so I
it's also
read
a question
it a lot.
I have. Yeah,
you know. But I do remember liking Matilda and BFG and the Twits, and I also read his autobiography. Oh, The Witches. That's another good one. I read his autobiography of his boyhood as a kid, which I don't think was really for a child audience, but they definitely shelved it with the kids stuff at the library. But his sister dies of appendicitis really early in that. It's pretty depressing, but
oh gosh.
Yeah.
I have always heard the rumor, and I don't know if it's true or not, that the reason why Roald Dahl, the children characters, the main characters in the books, are always treated so poorly is that he hated children. And I don't know where I heard this fact. I heard it many years ago, though, that he hated children, and so he wrote these stories, but was told that they would never sell unless they had a happy ending. So he always had all these awful, terrible, no good things happen to these kids, and then do a complete 180 at the end and have everything be happy ever after, so his books would sell.
I mean, I definitely can buy that, especially with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where that is essentially just a series of kids behaving poorly and being punished for it. And I know that for the Twits, the reason that he wrote that book was because he hated beards. And so he wanted to write a book about a guy with a beard who was stupid and gross and disgusting so that people would stop having beards.
Oh, I don't think I've ever read the Twits. I think that would bother me.
Yeah, it's a couple who are terrible and mean to each other and everything else, and they abuse some animals a little bit, but in the end, the animals get their revenge.
That sounds awful.
Yeah. With a lot of stuff, it's very dark. A lot of Roald Dahl stuff is very dark, and I also think a lot of it is very surreal, and the logic makes sense in a way, but it's not correct.
Yeah.
And this happens a lot in this book where something is explained and it's oh, this is the reason why, and it's child logic where it's Yeah, I see the connection that you're making there, but that's not actually how the world works, but it
Yeah.
does work that way in this book.
Yeah.
Which is
I mean,
interesting.
to argue that most of even the adult characters in his books are children.
Yeah. Everybody has that kind of like weird logic.
And I especially had a problem with the adults in this book, specifically Charlie's 3 bedridden grandparents. Just, they were terrible people.
They were not the best. I guess we should kind of a little bit talk about the plot just in general. So the plot of this book, it picks up right at the end of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. They get in the Great Glass Elevator and they shoot off into space.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's Charlie and his parents and his 4 grandparents and Willy Wonka in the Great Glass Elevator hurtling through space. They come across a hotel that is like a space hotel that the US has put up there. And they go on board. They trick the president into thinking that they are Martians or something. And then they find...
Because the US president thinks that they are first... Russians, and then Indian... Or no, sorry, and then Chinese people. And then... there's like one other thing, but they come to the conclusion that they're aliens.
Because Wonka shouts a bunch of nonsense words at them.
Yes.
And that makes them believe that it's an alien language.
Yeah. As most responsible adults would do towards authority figures, is just yell gobbledygook at them until they go away.
So they do. They go away, and the gang, which again is the parents, grandparents, Charlie, and Wonka, start exploring the hotel, and then the Vermicious?
I don't know. The Knids.
The Knids show up, and they're like creepy, shape-shifting, slimy, gross things that are generally shaped like eggs, but like can change into different shapes, and have, as Wonka explains, have traveled through the galaxy, eating everything.
Yeah, and they can travel millions of miles in a day.
Yes. And the only reason they haven't destroyed all of Earth is because of our atmosphere, and they burn up in our atmosphere. So they find those aboard the space hotel. They get back into the Great Glass Elevator, zip off. They find that the group of maintenance workers or whatnot who were coming up to the space hotel, get into the space hotel, get attacked by the Knids, try to escape. They go to help them. They pull them back into, or they lasso them and start trying to pull them away from the Vermicious Knids, who lasso them back and try to pull them out into space, but then they re-enter the atmosphere, burn up all the Vermicious Knids. Everything is solved. That should be the end of the book, but then we have a completely different story. That's the second half of this book.
It's like 2 episodes of a very bad miniseries. Like, I had not read any Roald Dahl in years and years. But I do remember at least somewhat enjoying Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And again, I'm not sure if that was because I actually did enjoy it, or if because, like, you know, children's books when we were children were
very limited. You read what you got. Yes. And you liked it.
And that is what many people would call his best work. I think this is probably his worst. Like,
I wouldn't disagree with that.
Like, this was way bad.
This was just all over the place.
I could see how it would be entertaining to a child who was like, "Woohoo! Look at these antics." That it's like slapstick kind of very physical comedy, sort of bad cartoon way.
So they get back to Earth. They get into the chocolate factory, and Wonka gets out a pill that he has invented that causes you to lose 20 years off of your life for every pill you take. And he gives the bottle of the pills to the olds, who split them up, or at first are like,
we don't want
arguing over it.
Fake news. We don't trust it.
Oh, right. Well, first, because he's really sketchy about how he describes what the process of like coming to invent these pills was. Because he's like, oh, I tested it and some stuff happened and we're not going to talk about it. And
some Oompa Loompas were damaged.
Right. They're like, no, what happened to them? What did you do to them? And he's like, okay, on test 132, it worked out. And he lost all these years off of his life and became young again. So the old grandparents who, besides Grandpa Joe, who is the one who was in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory as the only one who got out of bed.
He decided his legs were worth using.
Yeah. So all the rest of them are still bedridden. The three of them take these pills. They take 4 apiece, which takes 80 years off of their life. And one of them is 78, so that makes her -2.
Mm-hmm.
So then they have to go, Charlie and Wonka have to go into the depths of the chocolate factory to find the waiting room, which is where people who are negative, who are minuses, go. And they have to find Grandma Georgina and spray her with, because the pills are called, what are they called?
Wonkavite.
Wonkavite,
Yeah.
yeah. And the spray is called Vita Wonk.
Yes. Not at all confusing.
So they spray her with that. She instantly pops back up to the land of the pluses. They go back up there. She's
300 and some years old.
Right, which they find out because Charlie, like, no one can figure out how old she is. Charlie says, "Oh, think back to when you were a young girl. What was going on then?" And she was like, "Oh, I was on a ship. I was on a ship." And he's like, "Okay, what was that ship?" And she's like, "I can't remember. I can't remember." And he's like, "Okay, if I say the name, will you know it?" And she's like, "Yes." And he's like, "Is it the Mayflower?" And she's like, "Yes," which is a hell of a coincidence.
It's the
number
only
one.
ship name he knew.
Number two, this is like, essentially they have invented time travel, is what has happened here.
Yeah, because she had all of these memories that there was no way she could have had before.
That she couldn't have had.
Yeah.
And again, so this is like what I'm talking about with like the childlike logic. Like, the fact that she is old means that she must have been born X number of years, that number of years ago. And so she must have lived through that, even though we know she did not. So it's like, it has a logical sense, but it's not the correct logical sense.
Yeah. But then, like, would she also retain those memories once they bring her back to her regular age? Like,
I
is
don't
she
think
still
so,
that
but
woman that came on the Mayflower?
I don't know. I don't know. Well, because she must. Okay, here's the thing. She must, right? Because when they take the pills, the Oompa Loompas who have taken the pills do not forget the 20 years from the time they took the pill to the age they regress to. So the pill taking doesn't affect your memory.
Okay.
So if the spray makes you old, you remember however many years old you are, even if you weren't technically alive at that time. It doesn't. Yeah.
Well, because then, like, that makes her American, right? Like, this story doesn't take place in America.
No.
Like, so she came to America on the Mayflower, and then she also has memories of the Revolutionary War and the Civil War, both two very American things.
Yeah.
And so then how did she become Grandma Georgina? The
woman in
the British
England.
grandma.
Yes. It doesn't add up.
No, it doesn't.
Well, and I mean, presumably at the time that she would have met Grandpa George in this alternate timeline, she would already be like 200 something.
Yeah.
So
she would have already looked like a corpse. Why was Grandpa George into that?
Yeah, it's but yeah, so they age her back up, they age the other two back up, and all is well, and that's pretty much the book. They get invited to the White House at the end, which was the tag for the third book, which was never finished.
Thank God.
Yeah, where they all go to the White House for dinner.
Yeah, it basically ends with them agreeing to go to, they get the grandparents out of bed, and they agree to go to a department store on the way to the White House so they can get actual clothes instead of just their pajamas.
They're like, "Oh, we only have our pajamas. Whatever shall we do?" And Wonka's like, "Well, don't you have any other clothes?" And they're like, "No, we don't know what to do." And Charlie's like, "Don't worry, we can stop by a store." And everyone's like, "Charlie, you're so smart."
What would
I'm
we
like,
do
"Is
without
he?
You?"
Is he? That's like the obvious progression of if you don't have something, you go to a store.
It's not rocket science. I have a lot of questions about how Willy Wonka thinks that Charlie is going to be prepared to run a company if his greatest ideas are, let's go to a store and is it the Mayflower?
Here's the thing. This goes into a theory I have about Willy Wonka, which is very prevalent, I think, in this book. I can't remember if this is supported in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or not. But, okay, so this gets into the pill thing, right?
Okay.
So he's created these pills, he says, after much trial and error, and he gives them to the grandparents. And they say, oh, he says, oh, they're worth a lot of money. I could sell them. but I'm not going, or I'm going to let you guys have them instead.
Yeah, and I could take them so I could continue working on the chocolate factory, but I wouldn't waste them on myself that way.
Right. So here's my thought. He's definitely taken these pills before, right?
He has to have.
He has to have. He is 1,000 years old.
Well,
he has been taking these pills for millennia.
Willy Wonka the Eternal.
And that's what the deal, like, literally, I think that explains so much. Because this, like, whole chocolate factory, they talk about, like, the stuff in this chocolate factory, it's insane. And crazy level, he couldn't have done this in, 60 years or however old he's pretending to be. I'm saying 60 because retirement age, I guess. So I'm theorizing that he's not really planning to turn this over to Charlie. He's just kind of bored and wants to see, this is like an entertaining thing to do on a weekend. Oh. I don't think he really has plans to turn this over at all.
Oh. Poor Charlie's gonna be so broken up about it.
Or even if he does turn it over, he'll just take his stash of pills, because it's implied that he only has those 12 pills.
Right.
But then he brings out a whole stash afterwards.
He's a liar, too.
Yeah, he has to re-age them up. So, like, he has tons of these pills just hanging around. Mm-hmm. So he can just take, like, a backpack full, like, fuck off to, South America for 50 years while Charlie runs things, and then come back in 50 years and be eternally youthful and
be the
zany.
Same Willy Wonka.
Yeah. So I think he's really just taking a vacation.
I was thinking it's like kind of like a Dread Pirate Roberts situation where there's always a Willy Wonka, but it's not the same Wonka. Like, he's gonna train Charlie. Like, the Wonka is just a title. Willy Wonka is an identity they assume.
I would agree with that, except I think he has too much knowledge to be, I think that because he knows about these aliens that are no one else on Earth knows about,
Yeah, and he went to all those places. He said it took him a very long time to go to all those places and collect all those ingredients for the pill and the spray. Like, yeah, I can get behind this. I
think he's an immortal being.
Willy Wonka is as old as the Earth.
Yes.
Now, okay, so then, is he human or alien?
Oh, well,
or neither? Is he some other sort of fantastical creature?
I mean, and this was a thing that I was thinking when I was reading this book. I was like, is this fantasy or is this sci-fi?
That's a good question too. I was torn on
the
classification of this book.
First off, the first half is very sci-fi.
They go to space.
And it's tropes. They go to space, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's not hard sci-fi, certainly, because most children's books are not.
This is not based at all in real science.
Right. But I think once it returns to the chocolate factory and you get into all of this stuff about minuses and whatever, which are essentially like ghosts, sort of. Not really, but that's the closest, thing. I don't know. That section felt a lot more fantasy to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he is an alien or if he is a eldritch god, but I think he's. Well, I guess he could be human and just a very
from the abyss.
Yeah, I feel like if he is human, he has been around so long that he has forgot his humanity.
Yeah, he thinks people are his playthings, obviously.
Yes. Well, the whole scene where the grandparents are arguing over what to do and how many pills to take, he knows that they shouldn't take more than 2.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's there, and because he tells them to please stop arguing, like, he knows.
Yeah, and he like turns around and ignores them and just lets them like essentially kill themselves. One of them.
Yeah. Imagine if Charlie didn't love his grandma. Willy Wonka would have been like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, Willy Wonka would. Well,
grab these babies up, let's go.
Yeah, he was perfectly fine with those grandparents being babies. Yeah.
Well, that's also very like Willy Wonka's like, let these crappy people learn their lesson the hard way. Like, and obviously this is from the movie and Gene Wilder's portrayal of Willy Wonka, but where he's just like, oh no, don't stop. Yeah, like that kind of like not very serious about the health codes in his factory of chocolate.
Now, if we accept the 2005 movie as canon, then Willy Wonka is human and the son of a dentist, and that's why he's obsessed with candy.
But
But also that version was garbage.
It was
So
poo-poo, and I think only 3 people like that version.
sorry, 3 people, if you happen to be the overlap of our 3 listeners.
So, okay. So we got Willy Wonka, an eternal being who may or may not have benign tendencies toward
I don't
human
think he
race.
has benign. I think he is squarely chaotic neutral.
Okay. So he doesn't care anything about either way about anyone but himself.
Right.
What are Oompa Loompas then?
Slaves.
Slaves from where?
Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of weird racist stuff, and I know we've touched on this a bit for this book, but in the treatment of Oompa Loompas, there's been a lot of debate as to whether or not Oompa Loompas were African.
Okay.
That they were. Let me see if I can find the.
I mean, I could see how. I mean, it's a very weird design choice, but that doesn't look like anything from the books in the movie.
The other thing is this book has been reprinted a lot, and they have edited things as times go on.
Oh.
In the 1977 version, they were 100% black pygmy Oompa Loompas. Was how they were drawn. So let me see if I can.
That doesn't make me feel good. I mean, considering the huge blocks of dialogue where Roald Dahl is writing a Chinese character who and replaces all of the R's with L's in the dialogue and gives them names like Chew on Dat. Like, I'm not really surprised he would also go that extra step to enslave.
However, on the flip side, there has been, I think, Roald Dahl's widow came out and stated that Charlie was originally supposed to be black.
Okay.
And then the publisher said, no, make him white.
Okay.
So there's kind of
That's shitty.
I don't know how true that is, though, and I kind of feel like that might just be, like, as a reaction to the Oompa Loompa thing, because, like, people,
but no
like,
way, he's
but
not
no, I
racist.
have black friends.
He knows a black person. Yeah.
Right.
He wrote about a black person one time.
And also he's dead at this point, so they can't ask him. So it's like, he's not gonna, disagree.
And I'm guessing that wasn't covered in his autobiography, huh?
No, not the one I read. But yeah, there is a lot of weird racial stuff in here. And I think in the first book, they are pretty explicitly like slaves, but in this, he's trying to pass them off as friends.
Kind of. I mean, he did experiment on them a lot.
He experimented on them, but then he said, oh, I had to go to the waiting room many times to save all of the nice Oompa Loompas who helped me out because we're friends. Because that was my thing. At first, I was like, you murdered 131 Oompa Loompas. But then he backtracks and is like, no, I saved them. And I'm like, does it count as saving them if it was your fault in the first place? I don't know.
I don't know. That just sounds like someone had a guilty conscience one day.
Yeah. But he does call them friends.
I guess.
Which, I don't know.
Yeah, I've always been kind of bothered by that relationship between Willy Wonka and the Oompa Loompas. And I just keep referencing the movie version because that's the version of this that I have consumed the most. But, I mean, did they even, like, get to go home? Did they just live in the factory? Did Willy Wonka do anything?
No, because that is very specifically, so that's the backstory of the Oompa Loompas in the books, is that they were a tribe that were shipped to England in, I think, packing cases.
Great.
And who live in the factory, but they prefer that to living in their native land. Which, again, originally, they were African pygmies, was explicit in the text. So, like, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, that's uncomfortable.
Isn't it?
Yeah, and again, is one of those things where it's like, that we talked about in the Tortilla Flats episode, but, like, this is the 70s. It's not as old as, this book didn't come out as a long time ago, like,
right.
70s are pretty...
When was Chocolate Factory? Because I know this was the end of the 70s, right?
I think it was 76. So it came out in 64. So there's like more than a decade between the two.
Yeah.
So maybe
Well, oh no, this one came out in 72.
Oh,
So
okay.
there's
Really?
8 years
Wow.
apart. Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty tumultuous time to be representing a basically a tribal slave race
As
as African.
well, and also
And
just in general, even if we take out all of they were black,
mhm,
and accept that they are orange, as in the movie, or very
mhm,
pale white, which I think is the book maybe is what it switched to. I can't
mhm,
remember. But even if we accept that, it's still this idea that they are a race of people that were imported into another land and are
mhm.
perfectly happy to live and serve a different race of people in that other land. So
Yeah.
whether or not they are coded as or stated to be black, that's a problematic idea.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. And then you add all this on that, like, usually you think like eternal, immortal beings have a little bit more of a frame of reference for these types of
hmm
things and would be a little bit more progressive and liberal with their with
But
their
maybe that's a
hired
mistake. Maybe
help.
maybe
But
we assume that they would be more progressive and liberal, but maybe they would be more conservative because they want things to go back
ah,
to how
maybe
things were
they're the
when
ones
they were.
prolonging the issues.
hmm
That also could be. They're longing for the quote unquote good old days
Yes, yeah.
when things were simpler and man could get away with stomping on another race.
Uh,
So back to those Knids.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, they were scary. I didn't like them as a kid. Oh, speaking of the Oompa Loompas, though,
Damn it.
when you no, not about their
No,
race,
I know, I know, I
not
know.
any of that. But when can we talk about their songs for a second?
No, because I skip them.
Okay,
I
well,
don't read songs in books like that.
here's the thing. First of all, a couple of the songs they sang, I definitely tried to sing them to the Oompa Loompa
Why are you holding a paintbrush right now?
because it was there and I picked it up.
Okay. That's fine. I did for like two lines. I tried to do the Oompa Loompa song, and
I
then I
think
was
it
like, "This
fits.
is not amusing
I
to
think
me."
it fits on some of them.
All right, let's hear it.
Don't know why. Let's not do that.
No, no, I want to hear it. I want to hear your Oompa
Okay.
Loompa song. Let
Let
me
me see
pull
if I
up.
can find the one that most fit.
There was like one that's like 8 pages long.
Yeah, yeah, that was the main one I want to talk about, but that one doesn't fit as well.
I didn't read it.
But
Should I read it really quick before we talk about
yes,
it?
yes.
I
Actually, yeah,
totally
read it real
skipped
quick.
over it. You want me to read it out loud?
No.
Okay, good. It's very long.
We thought you'd never make it home. We thought you'd left us all alone. We knew that you would have to face some frightful creatures up in space.
Oh God.
We even thought we heard the crunch of someone eating you for lunch. See, it fits.
It does fit. I don't want to read this. It's I hate reading this kind of stuff in books. Oh God. Do you know why Granny didn't tell the child to come along as well? She's going to the nearest inn to buy herself a double gin.
It gets better.
What?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Okay, so it wasn't about ODing, I guess. Like I thought it was going to
No.
be for a second.
Well, it
But
was in a
in
way.
a way, yeah. So can you wonder little Goldie began to feel a wee bit moldy. Oh my God, what is this? Okay, so the context of this song that they sing is this after all the grandparents have taken the pill? Or
Yes.
is it okay?
Yes. So did you finish it?
I did. That was horrendous.
Let's go back into talking about it.
Okay.
So the one that I really wanted to talk about was the one right after all of the grandparents take the pill and pills and
Yes.
Grandma Georgina gets turned into a minus. But there's this like 3 or 4 page song that the Oompa Loompas sing, which is this whole story about a girl who stays with her grandmother and sees her taking pills and decides that she wants all of the pills. So she takes them all, and it turns out they're all laxatives.
Yeah.
Which makes her feel...
And they're chocolate brown pills, so like I'm sorry, if I'm going to take a laxative, I don't want it to be the same color as the thing I'm going to be removing from my body. Like,
but so she takes all these laxatives and it makes her feel really bad, and then she has to go to the hospital, and uh, she survives, but then like she spends she spends 7 hours a day on the toilet for the rest of her life.
yes, what is that?
That's like the end of the song, which this song ends with, do you promise us across your heart that you will never help yourself to medicine from the medicine shelf? Which, okay, here's the thing. So, like, it's this really long story where the moral is don't take drugs that you haven't been prescribed in a way that you have not been prescribed, which is
Yeah.
the exact same moral as the main story. So why did he include both?
Word count.
Like
Paid
literally he's
by the
just like,
word.
I gotta spin this out a while longer. Let's do the exact thing that we're already doing, but with a kid and laxatives instead of an old and magic pills.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I was so disturbed reading that just now. Like, that poem could have gone in so many different directions. It's very
Oh
dark.
yes. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Roald Dahl stuff is very dark, and I'm like, I don't know that I don't think kids stuff should not be dark, you know? But I don't know if I would have caught all of the dark stuff as a kid.
Yeah, in the Roald Dahl books.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of his stuff is less like, oh, here's something dark that kids need to learn about because they need to like learn and grow, versus here's something dark that these kids won't get, but when they realize 20 years from now, it'll really fuck them up.
Yeah.
Like I feel
when
like
they go
he's
back
just
to reread these
trolling
books
people
for their podcast,
right,
they'll be
right.
really confused. How'd that get past the censors? I guess I have to assume that not our parents didn't read these books.
I don't think they couldn't have, right? Like,
well, I don't know. If Willy Wonka, I mean, 1964, our parents would have been born around that time.
yeah.
Maybe it just wasn't. Maybe it
Maybe
didn't
it's the same sort of thing as us. If we hadn't gone back and reread it, we would have been like, oh yeah, it's fine, it's a kid's book.
Yeah, let everyone I know read that. No, I don't. Ugh.
It's weird. It's weird.
It's weird, and it just left me unsettled the whole time. And I don't know. Maybe I do need to go back and reread like Matilda or James and the Giant Peach or something now because, well, I mean, just like thinking about Matilda and all of the things that Trunchbull made them do, like
right. And isn't James and the Giant Peach? I can't remember the backstory of James, but doesn't he have a sketchy home life too?
Probably. I mean, that's why he decides to get in a peach with a bunch of insects and roll around the universe instead of staying home like a good boy. Like,
oh fuck! I just opened the Wikipedia article on it, and this is the first part of the summary. 4-year-old James Henry Trotter, right?
No.
Number one. But he ages up a little bit. This is just his backstory. Okay. Lives with his loving parents in a beautiful cottage by the sea in the south of England until his parents are killed by an escaped rhinoceros during a shopping trip in London.
Oh.
That is a lot. And then, yeah, he goes and lives with an abusive pair of aunts. And then,
of course.
4 years pass, and then he does the whole peach stuff.
I don't know. And I guess to me, like, I'm comparing this to, and, well, I don't know if I should say this now or if I should say, am I rather be reading, but Coraline would be, to me, like, would be a modern, and that's not even modern anymore. That's from a couple decades ago, isn't it? That would be, like, my comparison to this. Whereas that's, like, a dark book where a child is feeling neglected, whether or not she really is up to debate, but is feeling neglected and sad and goes off to find this more idealized world and has things happen to her, and it's spooky, scary for kids, but
again, I think that's exactly
more uplifting.
Right, exactly. I think that's the thing. It's dealing with dark themes so that children can process those dark themes. Mm-hmm. Whereas I don't feel like this is supposed to be helping children learn.
No, I feel like he's like getting off on trolling children.
Yeah,
with these books.
honestly. And I mean, like, good for him. You can do whatever you want. Like, I'm not trying to say
well, he's dead now, so what does he care?
Yeah, who cares? But yeah, it's seems a lot more, and this is going to be a little bit hypocritical coming from a podcast that is called Hate Read, where we make fun of other things, but it feels a little mean-spirited. Yeah, whereas, yeah, I think Coraline is not that way at all.
No, and it still has those dark elements to it and makes kids, like, think about things in a different way, but you never feel as hopeless as you do in the situations that are presented in these books. And I don't know.
Well, there's also just a lot less, I mean, like, yeah, Charlie has his genius moments of knowing what the Mayflower is and knowing what a store is.
To the store.
But, like, in general, most of the problems are solved by Wonka knowing how to fix the problem. Like,
well, Wonka just knowing everything.
Yeah, like, most of the other characters don't really have much agency in this book, you know? Like,
and they're all presented as awful people.
Yeah.
So, like, we have the U.S. president is featured in the first half of this book, and he has campaigned with his childhood nanny as his vice president, who still nannies him, and he's like a complete moron. And jokes, I mean, say what you will about the American government right now, whatever. But and then we have his general, who just wants to blow things up. We have the 3 astronauts who have no idea what to do in the situation that they're faced with. Though they do try to talk some sense into the president, I think. We have Charlie's 3 grandparents that refuse to get out of bed and are just like sour pusses and closed-minded, ignorant people the entire time. And even Charlie's parents are like these timid characters that, they really aren't even people. They're like shells of people.
I literally didn't know that they were in the book until like halfway through the first part, like until about a quarter of the way through.
Dialogue.
Yeah, well, and they say, they're like, oh, the 7 people in the elevator. I'm like, 7? Who are you counting? There's the 4 grandparents and Charlie and Wonka. Like, what are, or the 7 other people, I think. So it's Wonka says 7 other people or something like that. But yeah, like 4 grandparents and Charlie. You're missing 2. And then like a quarter of the way through, it's like Mrs. Bucket said, and I'm like, oh, she was there too. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Like, and I guess that means his dad is there too. And then he kind of peps up in the like
when he gets to the
once they get to the chocolate factory, he's like, oh yeah, cool. He kind of becomes a sociopath though, because he stops caring about other people's feelings in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, he was like, oh well, who cares that our parents are young and or disappeared now?
Yeah, he's just like, I just think this is all so cool and neat, and
give me one of those pills.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I can understand the idea of wanting a child to feel empowered in a novel and making the adult characters like maybe less than resourceful or less
But Charlie's not empowered.
But Charlie's not. Charlie's just as dumb as the rest of them. Right. This is a book about Willy Wonka showing off.
Yes. And I don't... And of course he can solve every problem. He's an ageless, immortal super being.
Yes, he's faced all these things a million times before.
Right. What's the point? What's the point of any of this?
It was just goofy antics.
And scary aliens that traumatized me.
And stupid, normal humans.
Ugh.
Yeah. This was a very frustrating read.
Yeah. But you know what? We got through it.
Somehow.
Somehow is because it was only like 90 pages long.
Oh yeah, it only took an hour to read.
Right. I was drunk while reading half of it.
It was a good day.
It was fun. Well, was there anything you liked about this book?
Not really.
Lining? No silver
Even
lining.
the illustrations were ugly.
The illustrations are ugly and scary, and I hate them.
Yeah, still. And I don't know. I guess it's Quentin Blake. I think he must do several book illustrations for the series, because I don't know, they all have that like scritchy scratchy quality where like none of the lines connect. I hate that style. Yeah,
he's like Dahl's main illustrator, I think. He's done pretty much all the Roald Dahl books. I'm pretty sure, because it's very similar in style to like Matilda and
I was thinking the BFG.
Yeah,
there is one image from the BFG that will forever be seared into my mind because it sickened me as a child reading these books. But it is when the main character of that book first meets the BFG and is describing the state of the BFG's beard and how there's just like food and stuff trapped in it. And then of course they illustrated the beard. Oh, I almost threw up as a kid reading that
Was
and
that
looking at that
BFG
picture.
or was that the Twits?
I think that's the BFG.
Because I thought the BFG had no beard.
I don't know. I don't remember reading the Twits.
Okay, but look up
but maybe
Mr. Twit's beard.
No, because I
On...
don't want to be grossed out again.
I swear, I think it's the Twits. Because
It
let me
might,
see.
maybe it is
BFG
that. I could
beard.
have sworn it was the BFG. I've lived
Because
my whole life thinking it was.
he has no beard, Anna.
Shit.
Anna, the BFG is beardless. How do you respond?
I guess I must have read the Twits and never read BFG.
You must have read the Twits and suppressed the hell out of it.
Yes.
But yeah, no, there's an illustration which has a zoom up, like a zoomed up picture of his beard and nose.
And it's got
and
nasty
pictures
crap
of,
in it.
Yes, that's the Twits.
Okay. I never read BFG then.
That's part of his whole thing about how he didn't like guys with beards, so he wanted to make this terrible character with a beard.
Well, you know what?
To make people never want beards.
It worked because to this day I am unattracted to beards. Just the mental image of that just ugh. Yuck.
Yep. That was the Twits. Another picture that stuck with me from the let me see if I can find it real quick. The book Boy, which is his autobiography of his childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I mentioned, his sister gets appendicitis very early in the book.
Very early in his life, or very early in the book?
Very early in his life, yeah. And I think, I wish I could find it. I think there was a picture because it was this whole thing about how he claimed. I can't find the picture, but it was like this whole thing about how he supposedly she got appendicitis from her toothbrush, and like the bristles came loose and then like got onto her appendix somehow. I don't think that's how appendicitis works, but there were some drawings of like the toothbrush and the loose bristles and stuff, and that just like really freaked me out as a kid. And I was very afraid of my toothbrush bristles killing me because she died. She dies of appendicitis.
So wait, so the toothbrush bristles came off while she was brushing her teeth and somehow made it to her appendix from her mouth?
That is what I believe is claimed in this book.
Is the appendix part of the digestive system?
I don't know.
Would the stomach acids not take care of that bristle before? The story is falling apart. Roald Dahl, just like your child logic in this book, so too does your child logic fall apart under this appendicitis theory.
Let me find it because I found scrolling through. Am I making this up? Is this a thing I've imagined?
Just like my BFG picture. We're both hallucinating Roald Dahl memories.
Okay, hold on. No, I found it.
Okay.
So it wasn't. Oh, no, wait. Yes, it is. Okay, so it's not related to his sister, but the next day we were allowed to inspect the appendix itself in a glass bottle. It was a longish, black, wormy-looking thing, and I said, "Do I have one of those inside me, Nanny?" "Everybody has one," Nanny answered. "What's it for?" I asked. "God works in his mysterious ways," she said, which was her stock reply whenever she didn't know the answer. "What makes it go bad?" I asked. "Toothbrush bristles," she answered, this time with no hesitation at all. "Toothbrush bristles?" I cried. That's very hard to say, by the way. "How can toothbrush bristles make your appendix go bad?" Nanny, who in my eyes was filled with more wisdom than Solomon, replied, "Whenever a bristle comes out of your toothbrush and you swallow it, it sticks in your appendix and turns it rotten." In the war, she went on, the German spies used to sneak boxloads of loose bristled toothbrushes into our shops, and millions of our soldiers got appendicitis. Now, I don't think he is claiming that is actually how appendicitis works.
No.
But as a child, I did not get that and thought that was how appendicitis works.
Poor M.
I think this is because then it goes on to have Nanny says, "Oh, make sure you don't use old toothbrushes." So I think this is like, one of those things that parents make up a thing to be like, "Oh, don't do this because the toothbrush bristles will kill you." Ha 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 ha. Weren't the 30s a funny time?
I guess that explains his need to terrorize children.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so silver lining, I don't know. I guess if you are a kid who's not really looking for anything high literature, which is most kids, the zany antics of this book would probably entertain you. Like, it moves quickly. There's new stuff happening all the time. The characters would say some things that could be perceived as funny to a kid. And like you said, it follows that kid logic where it would be, simple for them to grasp the ideas of something complex like traveling through time or being younger than you are old. I guess. I wouldn't want my children to read it, but maybe someone out there would enjoy this.
The biggest thing for me, as with a lot of these rewind ones, I think might end up being is just like the nostalgia factor of it. No, you know what? Not even that, because the nostalgia factor of this for me was being terrified as a child.
Yeah.
So no, forget that. Just kidding. Not nostalgia.
No, not
Terrible,
for this
hated
one.
it. So I guess my silver lining is that I guess it's nice to know what happened to Charlie after the first
Is
book.
it though? If this is the canon universe of what happened to Charlie, I'd rather just write the fan fiction myself.
I guess.
Let me see how many. I'm gonna see how many Charlie Bucket fan fictions there are on fanfiction.net real quick.
I'm going to AO3.
AO3, that's just gonna be sexy ones. I don't want that.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Oh, well, the first most popular one apparently is Charlie Bucket Mike TV, so make of that what you will.
No.
Oh, wow, this one is all over the place.
Okay, there is over 1,000 Charlie and the Chocolate Factory fan fictions.
Yeah, there's quite a few, but how many of those are the movie and how many of those are?
This is the book. I'm on the book section of fan fiction.
Wow.
This one was published March 11th.
Read it.
An alternate course of events in which the characters from the 2005 movie universe travel to the 1971 movie universe and have to find a way to get back. See, okay, hello, I'm in the book section.
So that's a
reported.
Movie one.
Reported. Okay.
There are 172 on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory in AO3.
But those are sexy ones.
They are sexy ones. They also seem to be a lot with the movie, considering the first one I found is called Come With Me and I'll Be in a World of Pure Incarceration, which...
But how is come spelled?
It is spelled normally, like C-O-M-E. But it's definitely about Charlie and Willy Wonka, and that's creepy.
No. But this one, 25-year-old Mike was thrown out of his house and had nowhere else to stay or go. But when he was at a hotel, he runs into a familiar woman with brown hair and blue eyes. It's Mike TV and Veruca Salt fanfiction.
The one that you said about the 71 movie and 2005 movie is also cross-listed on AO3.
It's 15 chapters long.
It's very long. It only has 4 comments, though.
19,286 words. Oh, see, this one's got 95 reviews on fanfiction.net, because apparently that's where people go for their Charlie and Chocolate Factory fanfiction needs. Do us a favor, listeners. Read one of these fanfictions for us.
Oh God, hold up. I found one that is an original character with Willy Wonka, and it is Charlie Bucket's big sister.
No.
Mary Sue.
No.
Oh my God.
Okay.
That's great.
Let me give you the title. Nutty for Wonka. What do you think that's about?
No.
It's 43 chapters long, 35,000 words. Oh my God. Sorry, that was really loud. This one is 209,000 words long, 68 chapters, published February 1st, updated March 8th. They had this sitting in their documents. What is going on? What upheaval, perhaps evil, would ensue if the Buckets, house and all, moved into the chocolate factory? What secrets would that stir up? Just what, let's see, would the damages be? Angst-filled sequel to another Charlie and the Chocolate. Hold on, I'll see you about 500,000 words later after I read these two fanfictions. I am so confused.
In case you're wondering about the breakdown on AO3, Charlie and Willy are the most popular relationship. So we can all be sad for humanity. And then the second most is Willy Wonka and an original character. Which
I have found someone on fanfiction.net who has written 7 Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
What possesses
fanfiction?
What possesses a person?
It's the only things they've published.
No.
Anyway, please do your research and let us know.
What is the best Charlie and the Chocolate Factory fanfic out there?
Yeah, we'll read it. We'll read it, and maybe well, no, I don't think we can discuss it on the podcast.
No,
like
that's
for a
mean.
full episode, but we can mention it and give our brief thoughts.
Yeah.
Give us an update on the status of the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory fandom, if you don't mind.
Right,
This will be a homework assignment for a rewind episode. You have until our next rewind episode airs, which we don't know when that's going to be yet.
Should we do our other segments real quick before
Yeah. Let's do those things. Wait, you gave your silver lining, but there wasn't one.
No, not really.
I didn't really have one.
My silver lining was getting to learn that there is a not insignificant Charlie Bucket Willy Wonka fandom.
Oh, I thought it was going to be that you found out there was an end to this book and it didn't just stop at the part where the Knids spelled out scram.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's my silver lining. My silver lining this week is that I am happy to have learned that there is an end to this book, and it doesn't just stop at the part where the Knids spell out scram. Fix that in editing.
There you go. Splice that in.
All right, so did you relate to literally any human in this book?
No, I think maybe the Knids.
I don't trust you now.
I wanted to kill everybody in the book.
I mean, yeah, but
I
like
wanted
also
to squish them in my muscly body.
I still don't like that.
They can shape into anything, but they choose to go around in the shape of like
an egg.
An egg and hit stuff with the pointy end.
Yeah. It's okay. I think mine was probably that one Oompa Loompa who Willy Wonka experimented on and became younger than he actually was, because I feel I'm an old person stuck in a young body. So.
Or maybe just like the chocolate.
Yeah.
Because but I like to imagine everyone loves me.
Yeah. There you go. The chocolate didn't really feature that heavily in this book, though, which
disappointing. The president did mention wanting one of the chocolates.
Yeah, and they walked by chocolate, but
just the thought of there being chocolate, though.
Yeah. What would you have rather been reading?
Well, I mentioned before, kind of along this theme of children's books that are a little bit darker. Definitely Coraline by Neil Gaiman. And then also The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Juster. Is that his name?
Maybe.
I have it sitting on my shelf, but I
like a name of a human.
Does it though? Like Norton Juster?
Well, it sounds like a name of a human more than a
his
cat.
That is his name. Norton Juster.
A panda?
Don't shit on pandas, dude.
I'm not. I'm saying that a panda wouldn't be named Norton Juster.
Shows you. I'm going to make one now.
You're going to make a panda?
Yeah.
How are you planning to do that?
Don't know. Got my modeling clay right here. But if you haven't read The Phantom Tollbooth, first of all, do it. You can even stop listening to the podcast right now because it's that good of a book. But it is about a boy who is very bored with his life and discovers this other universe where he toddles about in this little car and meets all kinds of fun and zany people. The end. It's very good.
Yeah, I had trouble picking one for this week because, like, I was trying to think of what else I was reading around this time period, and I can't really super remember.
American Girl books.
Right, American Girl books, that series of history books that were about princesses with the gilded pages. Those were good.
Yeah, the Babysitter's Club.
Babysitter's Club, yeah. But I'm going to pick one that I was a little bit older when I was reading, but I think it's thematically kind of similar to this, and we actually talked about this recently, you and I. Series of Unfortunate Events.
Oh, yeah.
By Lemony Snickett, which I'm also excited because I'm sure by the time you guys hear this, it will be like August or something because we record things way out of order and in advance. But at the time of this recording, the second season is about to drop on Netflix, so I was kind of thinking about it. But I think it is kind of what we talked about with Coraline. It is darker themes.
Oh yeah,
but
shit happens to those kids.
Yeah,
left
but
and
it's
right.
not in a cruel way. It's not like to try to pull something over on the readers.
Mm-hmm.
It's very upfront and about the fact that it's going to be darker themes.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like there's more that kids can take away from it than this book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it does well to the idea of like the adults who are supposed to be the good guys not having a
Failing
lot
at
of
that.
power. Yeah, not being able to do their job very well, but not in a way that like demeans them.
Right.
Like
And also the character who is the most like Wonka in that they are able to manipulate those around them is clearly the villain in Series of Unfortunate Events. It's Count Olaf, which I think is the actual case, that the person who is manipulative and able to control everyone around them and has more knowledge than everybody else and withholds that knowledge until the last second is a villain and should be considered a villain. But that is not how this is presented at all.
No, I think maybe this is like one of those books where it's told from the point of view of the villain, but Roald Dahl forgot to mention that.
Yeah, like I'm like this. I guess he's not evil, but like he feels like he should be evil.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't feel like his motives are pure. Like
no, I don't know what his deal is.
He's playing some sort of side game, but I don't know what it is.
For sure. But that about wraps it up, I think, for this fortnight.
Yeah, I got some fan fiction to read now, so.
If you guys want to tweet us your recommendations for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory fan fiction, you can tweet us at hatereadcast. You can also email us at hatereadcast@gmail.com.
Uh-huh. And thank you to Ben Cope for the use of our theme song. It is amazing.
Make sure you guys follow and subscribe wherever you're getting this episode. We do need to talk real quick about when our next Rewind episode is going to be. So we don't know yet, but it's going to be a few weeks from whenever you, or a month or two from when you guys are hearing this probably. And we are going to be moving on up in age to middle school-ish.
Yeah.
So the next one we're going to be reading is one that I hate from middle school years, and that's going to be Midnight for Charlie Bone by Jenny Nemo. So we'll give you guys a heads up on whatever episode is before that episode, that's going to be the next thing that we do. But if you want to get a head start, when we get to, oh shoot, I think,
I don't think we did that.
We didn't do that on episode 12, so we need to do that. You know what? I think
let's just keep it a surprise.
Okay. We'll figure something out.
Well, okay, yeah, just remind us to let you guys know.
Look, we're gonna do Midnight for Charlie Bone at some point in the future. You may or may not be aware of it, but if you want to get a head start, you can read it now, and eventually we'll get around to it.
Yeah, the cover looks
aside from
stupid.
that, yeah. Aside from that, we'll be back to our regular challenge schedule next week.
Yes, with a book that we don't
know
next
fortnight. Next fortnight. Sorry, not next week.
Oh, we always say that, yeah. But yeah, with a book we're not sure about yet because we haven't recorded the previous episode.
Yay.
Look, guys, there's a method to our madness. Just trust us.
In the words of Roald Dahl, it was an unhappy truth, he told himself, that nearly all people in the world behave badly when there's something really big at stake. That one's not funny. It's just sad.
It's just sad.
What if we just did that? Left in that's not funny. It's just sad.
Yeah, it's just sad. We really wanted to end this note on a downer, just like the rest of this book was.
The end. Bye, guys.
The end.
In the words of Roald Dahl, Granny at 2:30 came in, weaving a little from the gin, but even so she quickly saw the empty bottle on the floor. "My precious laxative," she cried. "I don't feel well," the girl replied.
But I want to hear it in the tune of the Oompa Loompa song.
I don't know if that one will fit. Granny at 2:30 came in, weaving a little from the gin. But even so, she quickly saw the empty bottle on the floor. "My precious laxative," she cried. "I don't feel well," the girl replied.
Also, saw and floor don't rhyme.
They don't, but maybe in a British accent. Even so, she quickly saw the
Saw.
empty bottle on the floor. No, that's not
not
British.
British at all.
That's West Virginian or something.
She saw it.
She saw.
She saw it on the floor.
Maybe she saw on the floor. That just sounds stupid.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was going for with that one.